Alright, before we start, I feel like this video should have been a huge priority for me ever since I started liking Eggy as much as I did, since the majority of the OSC community sees me as one of Eggy's most supportive fans. And, if I have to be honest, I have no idea why it took me this long to make a full video talking about why I love Eggy. But hey, I feel like starting 2023 with a video like this would be a nice idea. So Eggy, she's a character that first had a role in the 4th season of Battle for Dream Island, known as BFB. Her overall opinion for most people seems to be that she's a pretty bad character, who is there only to cause problems to other characters, or on the other hand, is just a pretty average or even boring character. And to be fair, you can see where they are coming from. She barely had any important scenes in the first episodes, and when she did have a major role, it was usually seen as extremely controversial, some examples being BFB 6's final scene, and her argument with Cake in BFB 13. And yeah, I can see why people would see her as either bland or just annoying, as she definitely doesn't have the same attention as characters like Leafy, Lollipop, or hell even Grassy, but that does not necessarily mean that she's not an interesting or entertaining character. So let's go on a journey through time, to see Eggy's entire history throughout the series, to see if we can understand her more as a character. Now before we begin, here's how I decided to divide each section of this analysis. We will start with Eggy's entire history as a character, going from the first scene where she talked, up until her latest appearance on the show. Next, we're going to pin down her personality overall, showing why she interacts with other characters the way she does. And finally, I'm gonna add some reasons on why I personally like her. I might also add some extras parts if needed, but we'll see. So yeah, let's start off where she started to have a role in the series, which means I'm directly skipping any appearance she had before BFB. Because those were just appearances, and not actual relevant scenes that described her in any way. Also, I'm just gonna focus on the show itself, so anything outside of it is probably considered to be not canon, and therefore it's not worth talking about, like that one Among Us animation. Also, if you can hear a slightly different voice for the character, like right now, it's because I can't use the 2 text-to-speech sites that I normally use since they have a limit on how much I can use them every day. So if sometimes you hear this slightly different voice, then you'll know I used another site to get these text-to-speech voices. And finally, since this video is going to be pinned on my channel as my most important video, I wanted to make sure it could be as good as it can be, so that's why I decided to have some people make some animations or animatics for the video. I'll make sure that everyone is given credit, so at the end of the video, you'll see all the credits. I want to thank everyone who decided to help. I'm very glad that people wanted to give a hand on this big project of mine, so thank you all. But anyways, let's finally start this character analysis video. BFB 1, a very surprising return for the BFDI series, having the best season of the series ever since the original. Lots of new characters were given a lot of screen time in the episode, almost feeling like everyone had at least one line throughout the entire length of the episode. And that would apply to Eggy as well. After being unfairly treated by Lottie and Clock, Teardrop storms off to a nearby cliff, but is then approached by Eggy, who begins to tell her her own view on Teardrop's silence.
Gosh, those people sure wanted to get you to talk, huh? They just don't understand the appeal of silence.
She begins to explain how lots of people don't understand the appeal of silence, adding that there was a period on her life where she was silent herself, so she can relate to Teardrop.
You know, there was a time when I never spoke, so I understand.
From the first scene, we can already see a major and important trait about Eggy's character, that trait being that she's someone that does quite enjoy silence and peace, so much so that she admits that she had a phase in her life where she would just not talk. The reason for that will be explained in another scene later on. Now this scene has also another thing about Eggy, which is that, when she wants to, she's capable of helping others emotionally when they feel down. After all, Teardrop was just called bad things by Lottie and even Clock, who originally was trying to defend Teardrop. She was pretty much being abused, but she's later portrayed as the bad person in this situation for accidentally biting Ice Cube's legs after she gets hit with a fork. I would feel extremely mad if I was in Teardrop's position, so her reaction is completely justified. So after that, Eggy tries to cheer her up by telling something about herself, opening up to her, probably because Eggy does like the fact that Teardrop is silent, thinking that she shares her same opinion on the concept of silence. This first exchange of dialogue from Eggy serves to show 2 important things about her character. 1. She's someone who likes calm and silence, and 2. She will try to befriend those people who she might see as a potential friendship. Moving on.
I said there was a time when I never spoke, so I understand.
After Teardrop begins to show interest in what Eggy was talking about, Eggy misinterprets Teardrop's signals, thinking she's not interested in what she has to say. So Eggy repeats what she said before, with Teardrop trying even harder to show interest in her, but that fails again. Which makes Eggy annoyed at her, thinking that she wasted her time by opening herself with Teardrop.
Well, you clearly aren't egging me on.
Another thing I almost forgot to add is that, another trait that Eggy does have is her egg puns. There's not that much to add here, other than the fact that she will sometimes make some puns related to eggs. Not that much to say, but still worth pointing out I think. Moving on.
I thought you'd be curious, but I guess not.
Eggy, what was that about?
I tried to get Teardrop interested in one of my personal life stories, but she obviously wasn't interested.
Now of course, I have to say, you gotta be quite dumb to not understand that someone's trying their best to show interest. But then again, for some reason it's a common thing within certain characters from the series to not understand Teardrop's signals, so I don't know, maybe some characters are just dumb or something. But if we take it from Eggy's side, she sees Teardrop, who is showing no interest in her and her personal life stories, and to be honest, if we were to ignore that Dee Dee was doing her best to show that she cares, I can see why Eggy would act like this. It's like you were to open yourself up about a personal subject about your life, and the person you are opening with shows no interest on the topic. That would be quite rude on their eyes, showing that they don't care about you. So, even if Eggy is in the wrong for not being able to understand Teardrop's signs, you can kinda see where Eggy is coming from. After this scene we cut to Pillow, who then begins to explain to Eggy and Lollipop, that she thinks that when Teardrop flutters her arms, she's saying that she doesn't care about whatever you're telling her.
TD's hard to impress? Tell me about it. Earlier today I tried to sell her my fork repellent, but she didn't even care enough to utter a word. She did do this weird arm fluttery thing though.
Oh, you mean this gesture?
Yeah, exactly that gesture.
I've done some research, and I believe it means that the person cares so little that the last droplets of care spirit are being sucked out of their body, through their arms, and out of the tips of their fingers, and into the outer reaches of interstellar space to be lost forever. A true indicator that person doesn't give a
Nothing much to note here that comes from Eggy specifically, except her comment on how
Teardrop is so hard to impress.
this comment would later be brought up again in another episode, but we'll talk about that scene when we get there. For now, this comment just shows that Eggy now thinks that Teardrop has high standards, and she might try to get to those standards later on. So after this discussion about the fluttery arms, Barfbag will join the conversation, adding that Pillow's theory might be wrong, and that Teardrop does care about things, but is just not able to express it correctly, due to the fact that she can't talk.
Guys, maybe Teardrop did care, but just didn't say anything because, you know, she can.
Now this is already a much more valid explanation, and actually what is happening with Teardrop, but her theory is quickly dismissed by Pillow and Lollipop, who then begin to assume that whatever Barfbag says is something idiotic due to the fact that she is filled with vomit inside.
That's a ludicrous thought.
Yeah, make sure the barf molecules aren't spilling out and intoxicating your brain cells.
Now I do have to say, this way of thinking isn't necessarily wrong. It's kinda logical to assume that her brain would be intoxicated with her vomit. But at the same time, Barfbag never showed any signs of actually being affected by her vomit, so while I do see where Lollipop is coming from with her logic, she lacks the evidence to show that her vomit is actually affecting her, and I feel like she just used this as an excuse to win in the argument. Now what about Eggy? Well, she does agree with Lollipop about her way of thinking, or she could also not agree. I'm not really sure if Eggy agreed or not. But that doesn't change the fact that Eggy points out to Lollipop that, even if Barfbag was intoxicated with barf, she shouldn't be mean and inconsiderate to Barfbag.
Yeah, make sure the barf molecules aren't spilling out and intoxicating your brain cells.
Now wait, Lolly, let's think about this. If Barfbag's brain is being infected with puke, that's not her fault, so don't be mean about it.
Even if Eggy may think that Barfbag's logic was incorrect, she is still being respectful about what she thinks about and wants her to be treated as normal as everyone else, which is something that Lollipop does not do, since we can see her, throughout this scene and lots of other scenes later in the series, that she is most likely using this barf brain idea as an excuse to look down on Barfbag. So yeah, whether or not Eggy agrees with Lollipop or not, she still wants her to treat Barfbag respectfully, which shows us another trait of Eggy's personality. She's logical but not unfair to others. She likes to think about things, without making them look unfair to someone she prefers, and instead plays the cards straight. After this scene, she doesn't really have that much screen time for the rest of the episode, but she did join the losers team later on the episode. So for the next thing to discuss, why don't we talk about Eggy's first team ever? I'll admit, I'll be the first one to say that this team in general isn't that great. The idea of this whole team idolizing loser as the main gimmick does not sound like the best idea for a team to have. Just take a look at Object Filler again, where there's one team that just adores this one bag of grass. Huh? Grass. Grassy. Maybe there's a connection here. But yeah, this idea is not really that great, and it really does show, because during those episodes that loser was in the team, every member would be suffering from it. And if you think I'm being overdramatic, go ahead and tell me any lines that Needle had in BFB before loser got eliminated. Yeah, exactly, you either can't think of none, or you remembered that one line she had in BFB 1, where she just says,
"Hey, why don't we just all be on the same team?"
So yeah, overall, the team isn't really that great. But that brings us a question. Why did Eggy join this team? To that, there isn't actually anything that deep. The writers just chose her to be a loser fan, and so she wanted to join loser's team. I did actually read on the wiki that Eggy was originally supposed to be on Beep, instead of Nickel or Roboti, so that kinda makes me think how she'd interact with the rest of that team, especially considering how Leafy is on that team, which means that maybe Leafy and Eggy would have developed their friendship a lot earlier. But yeah, overall nothing too deep about her choice on why she joined the losers. And yeah, this team did suck up a lot of potential for the characters in said team, with some suffering more than others. However, not every character from this team had that fate. Some characters would still get recognition and screen time during episodes, like Pin, Coiny, and as we will now see, Eggy as well. So hey, let's talk about Eggy in episode 3. Yeah, we're skipping episode 2 cause
I mean, what the f do you want me to say?
she had one line, but it's nothing actually substantial or important. It's just some sort of an attempt of a joke, I guess. Oh yeah, I will skip certain episodes during the analysis, but that will be the case only when an episode has nothing to offer about Eggy's character. With that said, let's go to the next episode where Eggy has something important or interesting to look at. On the third episode, we can see Eggy, alongside Cake and Pin, criticizing the new hosts, with Pin adding that she almost prefers the old announcer. However, after hearing that, Eggy's curiosity rises, saying to Pin that she's pretty curious about the first season. BFDI, she was about to ask something regarding the first season, but she is interrupted by 4 before she could finish.
The third contest is...
I'm back!
Nobody noticed you were gone.
I noticed you were gone.
This season's hosts are a real mess.
Tell me about it.
I almost prefer the old announcer.
Oh, Pin, I'm actually curious about the old BFDI. You gotta tell me what...
Get into your team swings, people!
While the scene itself is pretty small, it's a key element to place down another part of Eggy's character, this part being her curiosity over the old era of BFDI. I don't think it's been ever explained why that is, but some theories I have is that she's either trying to learn more about the old season, to learn from the past mistakes of those seasons, or maybe she's just curious in general about BFDI. I think the latter is what's happening, especially when you consider that 4 himself was a fan of the original first season, so it wouldn't be that far off to think that Eggy herself was interested in the game too. Maybe this is why she was in the debut of BFDI. She saw how great and fun the show was, and wanted to join it herself. But that's mostly theories. She doesn't have anything else related to her character for the rest of the episode, so let's move to episode 4. Here we are, one of the most important moments related to Eggy in the season, and it's just a half-minute scene. That's kinda funny. Anyways, after the whole episode plays out, we go to the post-credits scene of the episode, where we can see Eggy, trying to reapproach Teardrop. But this time, Eggy is going to actually talk with Teardrop about her life stories. Teardrop gladly sits next to her, as Eggy begins to explain her childhood to her. Before we actually see what Eggy is gonna say about her childhood, I have to address first that this was the episode where Eggy would try to live up to Teardrop's, quote-unquote, standards. Even if her personal life stories might not live up to those standards, she's still gonna see if they are, maybe because she values them quite a lot, or maybe because of something else. But anyways, as Eggy begins to talk more about her childhood, she casually just drops one off, if not, the most confusing statements about the universe of BFDI.
So it all began when I was a baby egg. You know, an egg inside of an egg. Exception, if you will.
What does she mean by an egg inside of an egg? Does that mean she was given birth? Does that mean that Eggy has like a mom and dad? Does that imply that sex is canon in this universe? Cause if that's the case, where the fuck are the genitals in every object? Are they capable of hiding them? Is that why bathrooms exist in this world? What the fuck is happening? You see what I mean? With this simple line, so many questions started to pop in my head. But then again, they probably didn't think too much about this line, and it's nothing actually important. Whatever, let's continue with what Eggy has to say about her childhood.
It was very cozy, and at that moment, I realized I was pretty content. I had everything I needed. I didn't need to complain for more. So I thought, why shout? Why even say anything? As you see, that's how I, as a small egg, never really spoke much and blah blah blah.
And as the episode ends, we can get one of, if not, the most important key element to Eggy's entire character. She is someone who enjoys alone times way better than anything else, as she is pretty satisfied with those moments with herself. This kinda confirms that Eggy is actually an introvert. And no, I don't mean the too shy to talk but actually want to introverts, but I instead mean the type of introverts that actually prefer to be left alone, and don't like other people's company just as much. It's a pretty great scene to establish this trait of Eggy, which helps us understand that Eggy is a character that wouldn't really enjoy talking with others that much, for one reason or another. And if I have to be honest, the fact that Eggy herself said that she's someone who prefers to be left alone, actually kinda explains why she doesn't get that much of screen time. Like, usually when a character doesn't appear that much, it means that the writers weren't thinking of using them that much during the episode, like how Pillow has barely anything happening with her in the pre-post split era of BFB. But with Eggy, with this scene, we actually have a reason on why she isn't present. Whenever we don't see her in an episode, she's probably just somewhere alone, enjoying the company of herself, and who knows, maybe someone like Teardrop as well, since the two started becoming friends after this episode. So who knows, maybe the two of them have like these off-screen moments where they just hang out and enjoy each other's company. It's actually kinda sweet. It's a very neat detail that, definitely sounds like, and probably is, an excuse for Eggy to not be that relevant, but at the same time, it's a pretty neat explanation on why she doesn't appear as much as other characters in the course of the episodes, which is automatically better than just not having a reason at all. Oh, and also, another thing that this scene gives us is that, according to the BFDI official character guide, Eggy likes to add various blah blah blahs at the end of her sentences, to see if the person is actually paying attention or not. It's kinda sad that this has only been shown once, so it would really be cool if in the new episode she's in, she could test some of her teammates with this method of hers. Maybe Eggy has a strategy idea, and she'll talk about it to Basketball, and then she'll test her to see if she's paying attention or not. You know, small scenes like that can help Eggy to be more defined as a character. But in any case, this scene in general is just so good. I love how it's able to fix the initial conflict that these two characters had back in BFB1, while also doing it in a very natural and sweet way, giving a start to a very interesting friendship. So, what's next for Eggy in the grand scheme of things? Well, this is where things start to get tough for Eggy, so buckle up. Ah yes, BFB 6. If you ever liked Eggy, you know that this is probably the first time where people would actually start to dislike Eggy as much as they do. She doesn't even have anything important to her character happening during the entire episode, except, well, this scene.
I was only trying to help. A working clock is still wrong twice a day.
I don't think that's quite true. You know what he means, Cake. Even winners make mistakes sometimes.
Well, we sure weren't winners this time. I thought I could glide through the competition without danger, but it looks like Clock had messed that up for us.
I'm sorry. Don't forget, I'm the only reason we won episodes 1 and 3.
Vote in the comments using the letter and square brackets under who deserves to be eliminated. Whoever gets the most votes will leave the show.
To be honest, the fact that she even has this line here, while not having anything else happening to her in the episode, kinda makes me think that there was maybe some sort of an attempt to get Eggy eliminated. It kinda makes sense when you combine the fact that not only she had this line right here, but she also didn't have anything else happening to her in the episode, making this scene of her feel much more on the nose, not to even add the fact that it was placed right before the voting was announced. I think that the writers were kinda scared of losing Loser, so they tried to get those little kids to vote for Eggy, so that Loser would eventually stay in the game for more. But that's just speculation. And as for the scene itself, there's actually quite a bit to say about it, mostly because this scene connects some of the previous traits that we discussed. First of all, she says that she thought she could
glide through the competition without danger.
And this goes back to the fact that she's interested in the world of competition shows and wants to learn as much as she can. I say that because, yeah, she does need to learn more about it, cause getting up for elimination was just a matter of time, not a matter of if. And as for the other sentence she says, aka blaming Clock for losing for them, this both goes back to Eggy's trait of setting the cards straight how they are, while also adding more of realism to Eggy's character. She is saying the truth when she says that Clock made them lose, cause even if you will say that the others would have gotten the twinkle, it doesn't change the fact that Clock was still the one to get it, therefore losing for his team. There's nothing wrong about pointing that out, at least in my opinion. And then there's the realism aspect that plays in this scene. Think of it this way, imagine you were in a competition show yourself, something like maybe MasterChef, yeah, let's use that for this example. You're placed on a team, you and your team start to cook the dishes and all, but in the end, your team ends up losing, because one of your teammates ended up burning his meal. Now, wouldn't it be reasonable to either get mad at him, or at the very least feel salty about this whole thing, considering that now there's a chance that you might get eliminated, and not because of a mistake you did? Now tell me this, dear viewer, doesn't it sound unfair that, because of a mistake someone else made, Eggy almost got eliminated, only because she pointed out that Clock made them lose the challenge? I guess you could even say that Eggy did a Big Hero 6 reference by going,
"That was his mistake."
Baymax, destroy.
But yeah, overall, I'm kinda mixed about this scene. On one hand, it probably only exists to make sure Eggy would get the most votes in the elimination, so that Loser could survive. And if that plan would have actually worked, I would have totally been super upset about it. But on the other hand, after you go over that, you do kinda see some pretty interesting details that only go to increase more Eggy's personality and traits. So I'm kinda glad this scene exists, but only because Eggy actually stayed in the game, cause if that wasn't the case, I probably would have been very disappointed. Or maybe I wouldn't have even started liking Eggy as much as I did in the first place. Now why do you think I said that? You'll see why in the next episode that has Eggy on it, which is BFB 7, so let's discuss it, shall we? And here we are, BFB 7. First time Eggy's been put up for elimination. Now, based on what we already discussed on episode 6, the same idea of wanting Eggy to be eliminated is still here. You just have to look at the way Donut emphasizes how wrong it was for Eggy to say that one thing at the end of the episode.
I'm sensing some uneasiness from Loser here. Is it the mistake he made earlier? Voters won't forget that.
That doesn't apply to today, though.
You're right. Eggy, though, what you said last time does.
I thought I could glide through the competition without danger, but it looks like Clock had messed that up for us.
No, wait, let's think about this.
But luckily, that wasn't enough to save Loser, as he got eliminated with the most votes, freeing the rest of the losers from their bland status, since it's from here that everyone on this team would start to actually be involved in challenges. It wasn't just a couple of them that got their own scenes, like Eggy or Coiny, but now everyone was able to have more screen time, and to think that all that took was to get Loser out of the game, truly goes to show how he's kind of a bad character, at least for me. I know there's people who like him. In any case, Eggy doesn't do anything else on this episode, but I do have one last thing to say. This episode right here, when it first aired, that's when a person on YouTube finally started to appreciate Eggy as much as he does these days. And yes, that does mean that, before BFB 7, I didn't have Eggy as my favorite character. She was probably a character I didn't really notice much. But with this elimination, I started asking myself, wait, what did Eggy even do to get these many votes? And from there, that's how my appreciation for Eggy started, becoming more and more interested in her character and personality. But yeah, there's not much else to talk about Eggy for this episode, so let's move to the next episode relevant to Eggy. Jumping a couple of episodes later, we get the first rejoin of the season, the rejoiner being Leafy. Now, Leafy rejoining wasn't the best idea, since there were other characters that, personally, deserved to rejoin instead of her. Cough cough lie cough cough. But anyways, she ended up with the losers, and in here we actually start to see another friendship Eggy would create, with her and Leafy passing time together. The first moment of the two of them, after Leafy's introduction to the team, is in BFB 12. I would go and talk about Leafy and Eggy's friendship, but let's keep things in order, and see what Eggy does in this episode. So while explaining the challenge, 4 notices that Eggy is not paying attention, playing with Leafy at tic-tac-toe. Then when 4 tells her to pay attention, this conversation happens.
I'll take the mind of one person on each team and put them into the body of someone on a different team. Your job is to find the imposter on your team. Their disguises are flawless. The last team to find the imposter will... Hey, pay attention!
Why? I think us losers know each other well enough. We have this challenge in the bag.
I wouldn't be so sure of that. You're missing someone. Who is it?
Is this part of the challenge?
No, but don't worry. Missing contestants are excused.
So it seems like Eggy can't remember a certain character, who's been missing for quite a bit now. This would be another new thing related to Eggy, where she would try to remember who that missing member is. Now, I don't know if you're a hardcore APOY fan, but you might remember that I did talk about this specific situation a couple of years ago, which, although I had a very weird way of explaining my point, I do still stand by the fact that, in the losers team, Eggy was the only one who was actually trying to remember who that missing team member was. Sure, Eggy's clearly not standing up to what she said earlier, about how they all know each other well enough, so there's obviously that flaw to point out. But at the same time, she is also trying to fix that mistake, by trying to get that teammate back. Meanwhile the rest of the team really didn't do anything to help Eggy. So in general, yes, Eggy should be held accountable for not being able to remember clock, especially after what she said, but so should the rest of her team, but even more on the team itself, since at least Eggy was trying to bring that member back, which is a good start to the right direction, while the rest of team didn't really help at all. I think that this is another subtle way to make people dislike Eggy. Think about it. Making Eggy the only one to talk in this scene gives her the spotlight, and in this case, it's on a bad side, since she can't remember who that team member is. If the other team members actually said something too, then the viewers would actually notice that it's not just Eggy that forgot, but it's the whole team. But by making Eggy the only to talk here, this makes the average viewer think something like,
wow, that's not a good thing about this character. I should vote for her so that she gets eliminated next time their team is put up for elimination.
Again, this is just speculation, so take this with a grain of salt. But yeah, besides this moment, and another harmless bonding moment with Leafy over a game of tic-tac-toe, and yes, don't worry, I'll talk about Eggy's friendship with Leafy later on. She doesn't have much else to do this time around, so let's get to the next episode. In BFB 13, we have 2 scenes with Eggy. The first one is at the beginning of the challenge, where she once again tries to recover her dead teammate, but without any luck.
4. Can you recover Paludi?
Sure.
4. Can you recover Bottle?
Sure. Recover Bubble. Sure.
Or can you recover our possibly dead teammate?
Sure, if you can tell me who it is.
Come on, Eggy. It's challenge time. Let's go.
Nothing much to say here, other than the fact that she's still the only one on her team who even cares about bringing her teammate back, as Leafy quickly takes her to the rest of the team. As for the second scene, we have yet another controversial moment with Eggy, so let's see what happens here.
I really want to dig. Let me show you.
Yay! I hate that X's emeralds are down this hole. Did I just hear that X's emeralds are down this hole? Come on, Team Icy, follow me!
Well, I guess since we're just a team of followers, we should go in too.
Loser Spirit is commanding me to go in as well!
Hold it, Cake. I have a deep spiritual connection with Loser as well, but he's telling me that if we just dive into that same hole as everyone else, we're merely followers, obeyers, failures. But we're not that. We're losers.
Yeah, well, my spiritual connection with Loser is stronger, and he's telling me to jump right in!
You think you're so good, Cake? Well, my connection with Loser is so strong that when I crack, I bleed Loser's color. And he's telling me that we have to go our own route because Loser stands for independence, perseverance, and dignity!
I could really go for some chicken nuggets right now.
My spiritual—
Whoa, why are you guys yelling so much?
Yeah, what is wrong with this throng? Shouting strong for too long.
I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to say here. I remember I used to really like this scene in the past, because Eggy didn't want to be a follower like everyone else. But then you think about it, and that's not really how Eggy is. Let me show you some examples where Eggy prefers to be more logical rather than heroic.
I mean, other than the time that she...
Shh, look over there.
Yeah! High five!
Did you see that? That's how we can get up.
Hey, if we're not making our stack taller, we should go make the other stacks shorter.
Looks like it's just you and me, Marker.
Do I have to?
Yes.
Guys, I think one of us should go ruin the other team's stacks.
What, like a racer?
As you can see, Eggy likes to be logical. If she sees something that's going to work, she's going to use that plan. So here, when she's trying to not do that, it's kinda weird. I would prefer if the roles were reversed, where Eggy would try to follow the other teams into the hole, whereas Cake, who's still very attached to Loser, would try to change her mind. Personally, I think that way, the dialogue would have made more sense. But, even if that was the case, this is still one of the most confusing moments that Eggy has in all of the season, where I actually had to reflect for some time, thinking why she said these things and all, whereas normally I would be able to take not that long to understand Eggy's motives. I feel like maybe the writers messed up, making her contradict some of her morals and such, but I'm not sure. It's a confusing scene, so confusing that even someone like me has trouble understanding her. I would love to hear what you guys think about this scene, cause I'm not really sure what this scene is trying to do with Eggy, and Cake too. Maybe it's Eggy trying to be more important for the team? Maybe this is just a way for the writers to make Eggy even more hateable? Since this scene did cause a lot of backlash at both Eggy and Cake. But for the sake of continuing with this character analysis video, I'll just go and say that, this scene here is trying to make Eggy respect the legacy of Loser and his team, by making sure that they're not gonna be followers, and instead trying to think of their own way of winning the challenge. Maybe this is why in those TPOT episodes, Eggy is more so taking notes from other teams, because she's not in Loser's team anymore, so she can do stuff like copying strategies without tainting anyone's reputation. Yeah, I guess that's a fair take on this scene. I don't know, man, this scene is confusing. But it definitely is a controversial scene, as the two of them got some hate over this scene, so thanks for that I guess. Eggy doesn't have anything else going on in this episode, so let's move on to BFB 15. Now, before we start with what happens with Eggy in this episode, I feel like it's about time we discuss Eggy's new friendship with Leafy. Once she rejoins in BFB 11 and joins the losers, Leafy would meet for the first time with Eggy. From there, you can actually see them hang out together quite a lot of times, such as during the challenge of episode 12, playing tic-tac-toe, episode 13, where Leafy tries to include Eggy in the team's strategies plans, inviting her to come along, and even in episode 14, where neither of them have much happening. But you can see them together on one shot, playing once again tic-tac-toe. So that brings us a question, why did Leafy and Eggy start becoming friends? I don't recall a reason ever being brought up, but I do have some theories. Considering Eggy is a character that is pretty interested in the past of BFDI, I feel like Eggy would rather enjoy some time with Leafy, as she was the runner-up of the first season, so if she wants to know more about that season, she is one of the most reliable people that can help her know more about that past. So while playing tic-tac-toe and other games, I feel like Leafy would also tell Eggy stories about the first season, so that Eggy would learn more and more about BFDI. Of course, to make sure Leafy wouldn't lose Eggy as a friend, I have a feeling that she would try to hide the fact that she stole Dream Island. That's just a theory, so take that with a grain of salt. But for me, I think this is the reason why the two of them started bonding as much as they did during these episodes. However, in BFB 15, this friendship would be destroyed, as once Eggy confirms to Fury that she is friends with Leafy, Fury himself reveals to Eggy that Leafy stole Dream Island, therefore tainting and ruining the friendship that Leafy and Eggy had.
Hey, 4, could you recover my friend Eggy? Eggy! It's so great to see you!
Nice to see you too, Leafy.
Are we friends?
Yeah, I guess. Kind of a weird thing to ask someone, though.
See?
Wait, huh? People can just be friends with Leafy? Even though she stole Dream Island?
She what?
I don't think I need to explain why Eggy would end her friendship with Leafy here. Knowing that Eggy is very curious about BFDI, hearing the fact that Leafy, the friend she bonded during these episodes, was the one to steal it in the first place, is more than enough for Eggy to be mad at Leafy, thus ending their friendship once and for all. And before you say anything, Eggy has a valid reason to do so, so don't go and say that this is a valid reason for disliking Eggy. But besides this scene, there's also the post-credit scene, where we can finally see the end of the whole Eggy tries to recover her dead team member backstory line, as Clock is finally brought back to life, with everyone just remembering that Clock was the dead member.
4, could you bring our dead teammates back?
Get ready for a surprise!
Oh, Clock!
After Clock shows confusion, Needle begins to say how they forgot to recover him, but Eggy stops her and tries to soften the pill by making up how they just missed him. Now of course, the best way to go about this is to tell the truth, but you gotta give Eggy credit for not wanting to hurt Clock's feelings, especially since, like we said before, she's been the only one in the team to even attempt at recovering Clock, even if without success.
What?
Oh, we kind of forgot.
Forgot what it was like to be without you and really missed you.
Well, what episode is it then, huh?
15!
Yeah, I can tell you really missed me.
Also, this is most likely a coincidence, but are we not gonna talk about how Fury's flames make Eggy look like she is like some horns? Not saying that they're trying to vilify Eggy, but it's still something I wanted to point out. And with that, Eggy has finally succeeded at recovering Clock, therefore ending her storyline of trying to bring him back to life. We had BFB 12, where she realized he was missing, BFB 13, where she tried to bring him back, without any luck, and now BFB 15, where she finally succeeded at doing so. And alongside that, this episode brings a conclusion to her friendship with Leafy as well, going from BFB 11, where they first meet, to BFB 12, 13 and 14, where they start to bond with each other, building a real friendship with one and another, and finally, BFB 15, where Eggy finds out the truth of Leafy's past actions, thus ending their friendship. These two storylines are overall pretty interesting, and they help to build some traits of Eggy that were previously not used much, like Eggy's curiosity over the past of BFDI. So overall, I'm happy with how they handled these storylines with Eggy in the course of BFB. And with that out of the way, Eggy's moments in BFB are officially over, as after BFB 15, the split would happen. Eggy would decide to leave 4 and join 2 instead, therefore having a chance in the 5th season of the series, The Power of 2. But before we touch on Teapot, there's one last scene with Eggy after the split, which is in BFB 17. In there, the BFB contestants want to take X back to their show, but the Teapot contestants aren't okay with that. From those to talk in the episode, there's Eggy as well, who agrees that X is probably the nicest host that they have, mentioning how Eggy barely remembers the announcer from the first season.
Oh, no, you didn't! I personally like X as our host.
Yeah, X is the kindest host of the 3 we've seen by far. I hardly remember meeting the pulsating cyborg box, but I'm confident X is nicer than even him.
There's not much to say here, other than the fact that it makes us remember that Eggy was present in the events of BFDI, but not enough to have a clear picture of how the announcer was like. After that episode, Eggy wouldn't have any more scenes in BFB, so now we can move to the 5th season of the show, The Power of 2. With the split of BFB, the writers made it look clear that the power of 2 was gonna be different from the post-split BFB, while post-split BFB mostly dedicated its runtime for the challenges, without taking that much time to develop the cast. TPOT would instead take its time to have their characters interact and develop more. Logically, this doesn't make sense, as it would be more logical to have the smaller cast be focused more, while the larger cast on TPOT would focus on the challenges. But to be honest, I'm glad the TPOT went this way, because now every character has time to be relevant and important. In particular, it feels like Eggy has a much more important role in the season, compared to BFB anyway, considering that each TPOT episode that has released so far, always had Eggy development, which means that there will not be any episodes skipping. So with the first episode, we have quite a lot of scenes with Eggy, so let's start with the first moment she has. She can first be seen with Clock and Cake, after Clock shows interest over Winner, wanting to join their team. But Eggy isn't that interested in that, so she and Clock go on their own way, which would actually be the last time these two characters ever had a moment together.
Hey, Clock, what you looking at? Clock? Hello?
It's Winner! You guys remember Winner, right?
Winner? Who the egg is that?
Come on, don't tell me you don't know about them! Way back at the start of Loser's career, Winner and Loser were a duo. They performed together, toured together, ate chicken nuggets together. At some point, Loser went solo and hit the mainstream, but Winner? Well, they just faded into obscurity. But only a true Loser fan would know that.
I'm more into Loser's recent work anyway.
What? You're not seriously passing up this opportunity, right? Well, suit yourself, but I'm not gonna miss out.
It's kinda sad that Eggy never got a thanks by Clock, for being the only one on the Losers to actually try to revive him, but I suppose you can't have everything in life. Right before Eggy leaves on her own, Cake says that Eggy and Clock are his friends, and they shouldn't separate. However, Eggy clarifies to Cake that they never do things together, saying that they aren't even friends.
Wait! You two are my friends! You can't split up!
Cake, we never even do things together. It's okay.
This adds more to the realism of Eggy's character, cause think about it. Eggy and Cake have barely interacted during the time of BFB, and when they did interact, it was not a positive interaction. So Eggy is just trying to make Cake understand that being on the same team doesn't equal to being friends. And with that, Eggy is now on her own, looking for a new team for herself. Her next scene is with Basketball, as while trying to find new team members for her team. Basketball says that Eggy does look like a ball. Hearing this, Eggy is quite offended by her, but Basketball quickly saves the situation by saying she wants Eggy on her team, which Eggy accepts.
Basketball! I'm impressed that you stood up the golf ball like that!
Oh, thanks, I mean, she was just being a total—
This'll be your first time on a team with no other balls!
Well, Eggy looks kinda like a ball.
What did you just call me?
I just meant I'd love to have you on my team.
Alright.
This is yet another realism moment with Eggy, as she was basically just called fat. And like, how would you respond to someone calling you fat? You'd be offended, of course, especially since Basketball and Eggy never even talked to each other before this. However, after this rough start of their friendship, she and Basketball actually start to bond really quickly, as in the next scene with Eggy, we can see that she's telling Basketball about their last team member, that being Snowball.
Still thinking about who our final teammate will be?
Yeah, why?
I have some bad news for you.
What is it?
There's only one person left.
Well, I'm sure whoever it is, they're gonna be just—
So this is my team, huh?
It's actually pretty great to see these two interact, as they seem to be similar in certain ways, like how they're both very logical and thought-provoking. And with Snowball joining, Eggy's second team would now be complete, as they would call themselves.
I'm not gonna lose my dignity that easily. To uphold my honor, our team must be the strongest team on Earth.
Before we continue with the episode, let's go and look at this new team that Eggy found herself in, to see if this team is an improvement over the Losers. I'll be straightforward on this one. Not only is the strongest team on Earth a huge improvement over the Losers, but it's by far one of the most entertaining and unique teams that TPOT has to offer. The majority of the characters in this team really do function well with each other. Like I said before, Basketball and Eggy work really well together, acting like they're the ones to come up with ideas on how to win the challenges, and being the smart ones of the group, while also sharing similar traits, like how they both dismiss Snowball a lot of times whenever he tries to flex his skills. And yes, Snowball actually works amazingly here, as he remains the same. But he's not treated with the amount of respect that Snowball would give himself, leading to some funny interactions with him and his team members.
Did you see that? That's how we can get up.
I'll throw because I have
But more importantly, who are we gonna throw first?
I think one of us should go ruin the other team's stacks.
What, like a racer?
I hear you loud and clear. I'll go.
No, go find a team with a tall stack and swing into it to knock it over.
Come on!
Alright, if you say so.
These three clearly are the heart of the team, but the other members are pretty great too, with Belle having good interactions with Basketball on how to win the challenges, Foldy bonding more and more with Eggy during the course of the episodes, and Robot Flower having this new storyline related to how she works, which involves Basketball as well. And Grassy. Okay, yeah, he's the only one that doesn't work that well in this team. But he had to be in it since he and Basketball are friends, so whatever. It's not like he's gonna stay for long.
Grassy is the first contestant safe with 26,669 votes.
There is no God!
But yeah, almost everyone in this team works super well, to the point where I can even say that this is my favorite team from TPOT, as the majority of the characters here function and work amazingly with each other. So yeah, a great improvement over the losers for me. Alright, with the team topic out of the way, let's go back to what Eggy did do in episode 1. So after the teams are formed, Eggy goes to inform 2 about it.
Hey 2, we finished naming our teams.
Oh, that's a relief. I was afraid I'd have to make up team names for you.
I'm not gonna lie, that probably would have been better than...
So what's the first contest?
It always struck me as weird that Eggy, out of all people, was the one to go and tell the host something like this. These little scenes do help on give the idea that Eggy is gonna have much more screen time in the episodes. After the intro and the challenge announcement, we can finally see Eggy and her team in action, as Belle, Grassy and Robot Flower are immediately stopped from going back down, as it is against 2's rules to do that.
2 at a time, okay guys?
Okay. Cool, now go get the rest of us.
No going back down, I said!
Seriously?
is upset!
So for the rest of the challenge, the main focus is gonna go to Foldy, Snowball, Eggy, and Basketball. Eggy notices Team S strategy, which consists of throwing each person to the top, so then Eggy suggests that they could use that idea to win the challenge.
They're not coming back down?
They betrayed us!
Robot Flower wouldn't betray us. I mean, other than the time that she...
Shh, look over there.
Yeah! High five!
Did you see that? That's how we can get up.
Like I said before, this and other scenes help to make Eggy look more like an interesting character, as she is now much more smart and present in the challenges. Plus you gotta admire how quick Eggy is able to think of a new plan once the old one can't be used anymore. But anyways, after Snowball offers himself to throw Foldy, with that not working, Basketball and Snowball decide to go to the elevator, while Eggy is tasked with keeping an eye on Foldy. This is the first moment where a new friendship would somewhat start, aka the friendship between Eggy and Foldy. Said friendship would continue to grow more on the next episode, but there's not much to say about it in here, as in the next scene with Eggy, Foldy successfully lands on the ground, with Eggy being happy that she's back.
Oh no! I overshot!
Good, you're back.
Oh, Flap. I'm not acid-free anymore.
After that, the two of them would catch up to Basketball and Snowball, and at the final breathtaking moment of the challenge, the strongest team on Earth ends up being safe from elimination, which was a huge relief when I first watched the episode, as I know that if they were gonna be put up for elimination, Eggy would have had to fight to survive. Luckily, they did make it, which brings an end to what Eggy did in this episode. Oh, and I guess kicking 2 and the beating scene, which was kinda funny.
Well, I think you guys should stop projecting the blame onto me!
I think you should start projecting your voice!
Wait!
But yeah, overall, this episode was a huge step up for Eggy. They gave her a lot more to do compared to BFB, befriending Basketball and Foldy, alongside her new team, which is a huge improvement over the losers, so I would say that this was a fantastic episode for Eggy. And with the first episode done, let's check out what episode 2 has to offer. In episode 2, while everyone on Eggy's team is doing the challenge, Eggy and Foldy are the only ones who can't really do much to help, due to the fact that they're armless, so they wouldn't really be able to help much. In here, we see Eggy and Foldy talking some more, hinting at a new potential friendship for Eggy. We can see Eggy who would like to help, while Foldy says that she's okay with not having anything to do.
Alright, looking good up there, guys!
Of course!
Thank you! I wish basketball would give us something to do.
I guess I'm kind of bored, but it's not like I'd rather do work.
That's weird.
This conversation helps to make us understand Eggy's new trait, which is her wanting to help, or in general helping more in challenges, as we saw earlier in Teapot 1. So anyways, as basketball goes to check what Robot Flower's problem is, she puts Eggy in charge of everyone, which makes us understand that basketball trusts Eggy enough to have her as the second leader of the team.
Okay, I really need to figure out what's happening to you.
What? Basketball, I feel fine.
Eggy, keep an eye on everyone while I'm gone, okay?
Wait, what? You're putting me in charge? Of everyone? Ah, quiche. Well, I can at least try.
Once hearing that, however, Eggy feels a bit insecure about this, and if you know Eggy, it's pretty clear why she feels that way. We've said before that Eggy is someone who is pretty silent, so having her on charge can feel intimidating, but despite that, she's willing to try and see if she can a good job at it. After this, Eraser destroys the team's stack of blocks, so what does Eggy do to stop him? Well, here's what she did.
Eraser! You can't just knock our stack over like that!
What are you gonna do about it?
I'm gonna kill you!
You can't kill me.
Well, Snowball's gonna kill you! Snowball, kill him!
Guys, just start building again. I can take care of Eraser.
What are you gonna do?
Snowball, kill him!
I'm not gonna lie, Eggy's not doing a good job at being the team leader so far, as she wasn't able to properly take care of this problem. But you gotta appreciate the effort she's giving so far. Later in the challenge, Eggy overhears Fanny's idea of ruining the other team's stacks, so she sends out Belle to knock over them, once again dismissing Snowball in a hilarious way.
Hey, if we're not making our stack taller, we should go make the other stacks shorter.
Looks like it's just you and me, Marker.
Do I have to?
Yes.
Guys, I think one of us should go ruin the other team's stacks.
What, like Eraser?
I hear you loud and clear. I'll go.
No, go find a team with a tall stack and swing into it to knock it over.
Come on!
Alright, if you say so.
As we can see, Eggy's already doing a better job at handling the challenge, showing that she can lead a team good enough. Now, before we move on, I have to address something first, which is Teardrop joining Teapot. It's actually a great idea to have her compete in this season, since she had it the roughest when it comes to eliminations, the only fair one between BFDI, BFDIA, and BFB, being BFB, as the other two were either unfair, or straight up rigged. So I think that Teardrop joining Teapot is a great way to make up to those unfair eliminations. Now what does this have to do with Eggy? This shouldn't even be a question, as you might recall that Eggy and Teardrop are friends. Which takes us to our next scene, where, after Teardrop's death, Eggy would leave the team behind, and go recover Teardrop.
Stop. What are you doing? This is the worst day of my life.
He said it! He said it!
Hey, where are you going?
That choice was very sudden, and it did cost the teams lost in the end, but honestly, I'm all up for this kind of behavior, as it both shows us Eggy's priorities, aka close friends coming first before the game, but it also works as great conflict for the team later on. But for now, she goes and recovers Teardrop, and speaking of which, I don't know if you guys realize this, but Eggy is the reason Teardrop survived at all, as she would have lost the challenge if Eggy didn't recover her. So if you like Teardrop, I would say give a thanks to Eggy for her kind actions. After Eggy recovers Teardrop, she smiles at her, showing gratitude for recovering her, and then Eggy smiles back, and then Teardrop runs off to continue the challenge. However, Winner saw her from behind her, and they start to say that it was sweet of her to recover Teardrop, but Eggy shuts them off, telling them to not tell anyone.
What? What did I say?
Teardrop.
Oh, wow, Eggy. That's really nice of you.
Hey, you didn't see anything, okay?
Ish, alright. Whatever you say.
I mean it.
What's her problem?
And here we can see another interesting new little conflict that Eggy might have, which is with Winner, as they got curious about Eggy after this conversation, wanting to find out more about her, first asking Bottle about what Eggy's problem is, with no luck, and then to Clock, who then says to Winner to be more specific.
Bottle, do you know what Iggy's problem is?
Oh, you should ask Clock.
Do I have to?
Hi, Winner!
Hey, Clock, Bottle told me you know what Iggy's problem is?
You have to be more specific.
I'll keep my thoughts on where this is potentially going once I'm done talking about all of the Teapot episodes, but keep in mind that this could be an important thing for Eggy later on. Meanwhile, we get back to Eggy, who just got back to the team, but she's caught by basketball, and everyone else tells her that Eggy just ran off without saying anything, which puts Eggy on a bad spot. Eggy replies by saying that she wasn't prepared to have all of basketball's leadership pressure, which is fair, as she wasn't given much to do beforehand, and since we know Eggy's personality, we knew that she wouldn't be good at this.
We better get back out there! Fast!
I'm on it! We're back!
I'm back.
Wait, you're back? Where did you go?
She didn't even tell us!
She just ran off. I guess she didn't want something to do after all.
Eggy, seriously? I should have never trusted you with
Well,
this!
don't point at me. You're the one who left us in the first place. You just dumped all your leadership responsibilities onto me. I wasn't prepared for that.
Wait. My leadership responsibilities? Since when was I the...
Get it off! Get it off!
But as the two of them continue arguing, the final minute of the challenge begins, as Teardrop quickly shoves the one remaining block from Eggy's team away, making them lose in the end. Before the challenge ends, everyone does admit that they all could have done a better job, except Grassy, who was actually doing a good job at the last minute, which does show that he isn't utterly and completely useless, so there's that I guess. However, saying that at the end of the episode wasn't a good idea as this would get Grassy way too many votes, but whatever. This was everything that happened with Eggy in episode 2, overall about the same weight of screen time as Teapot 1, with maybe a little bit more here, as she was given the leadership role for part of the challenge, for only then causing the team's loss. But honestly, I'll forgive it when a character messes up a challenge, if that brings good drama out of the team, which, if you couldn't tell, the drama here was amazing. And not only that, but her friendship with Foldy started to grow more, with also Eggy and Teardrop's friendship growing, and the start of possibly a new storyline with Winner, who wants to learn more about Eggy Trough maybe Clock. There's lots of interesting stuff that was being made for Eggy, but all of that could go away in an instant, if Eggy were to get eliminated. Of course, when I saw the team lose, I knew that I had to do my best at making sure Eggy wouldn't get out, as there was too much happening with Eggy to have her leave so soon. So that's how it began, the first Teapot voting war, where Eggy's fans and Foldy's fans would switch constantly between each other for who was at last place. This war got so heated that even Basketball, who was the third lowest voted person on the team, got caught in the war in the last hour. Once the voting period ended, the votes were way too close for anyone to have any confirmation on who was going to be eliminated, somewhat like in BFB 22 in a way. So all we had to do now was wait. And wait we did, as Teapot 3 would eventually be released, so hey, let's go and see what the next episode has to offer. Teapot 3 does seem like the weakest episode out of the 3 episodes we've seen so far, at least when it comes to anything related to Eggy. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, as we have to see if Eggy is going to survive her second elimination. After Grassy, Snowball, Belle, and Robot Flower are all declared safe, Basketball would be the next one safe, which was good to hear, as someone as important as Basketball shouldn't have been eliminated so soon. And finally, Eggy and Foldy are left. Honestly, I'm really bummed about this, as I feel like this team shouldn't have lost this soon, considering this team is filled with underappreciated characters, so leaving them alone for a couple of challenges would allow them to develop more and maybe gain some more fans, especially when even Foldy, a character that has been troughed so much hate ever since BFB 11, because of a revenge plot, could have been recovered, as she was starting to develop a friendship with Eggy during these 2 episodes, but alas, the elimination is here, and Foldy got the least amount of votes, making her the second eliminated from Teapot.
It's down to two of you, Foldy and Eggy. Which of you will be safe?
Well, I promised to eat the cake, so hopefully I'm joining Pie.
Joining Pie eating a cake, maybe? Because I might send her some extra. Because you're safe, Eggy, with 5,977 votes. Foldy is out with 5,596 votes.
Oh my origami book that's called Geogami. I've been eliminated? It's been fun, guys.
Don't get me wrong, I'm so glad Eggy's safe, as she will now use these episodes to develop more with all those storylines she has in store, but I still feel like they did Foldy dirty. A great idea could have been that this team could have been Teapot's. Let me explain. This team is full of underrated characters, so why not make this that one team that would never lose? That way, everyone on this team would get development and get more fans. But yeah, I'm just rambling at this point. Point is that they shouldn't have lost this soon, or if they had to, Grassy should have been the one to get eliminated, cause everyone else didn't deserve to go yet. In any case, Eggy did manage to survive her second elimination, but what role does she have in this episode? Well, once the challenge starts, Eggy does say to her team that last challenge was a wake-up call, adding that they need to work better as a team.
I know our team.
Oh, you go.
Last round was a wake-up call, guys. We need to work better as a team.
I agree. We should try unscrambling the mess that happened last time.
Really?
What?
You're gonna use that word around me?
Oh! Sorry, Eggy.
For once, Eggy and Basketball decide to listen to Snowball, and they end up using his idea for the attraction, which in the end results in the team being safe.
Strongest team on Earth. What is this?
Hey, two! I reckon you're so weak!
What? No, I'm not so weak.
Oh, yeah? Well, can you take on this feat of strength? I have such trouble moving it. But I don't even know if you're up to the challenge, too.
Wow, it looks hard. Let me try. A strong game for a strong team. Simple, and I like it.
That's what I said.
Practice back! And now there's a whole new test to try.
There's also a post-credit scene with Eggy, but that one doesn't really add much to her character, so we can safely skip it. So yeah, like I said, there's not much happening with Eggy in this episode, as the main thing that happened this time were Eggy surviving the elimination, and also her acknowledging her own mistakes in the previous episode, promising to do a better job in the future, which, so far, seems to have taken seriously, as her team did gain immunity for the episode. Now that episode 3 is done, we can go and see what Eggy did do in the latest episode of TPOT, that being TPOT 4. Okay, I'll be honest, after Satomi left the writing team, it does feel like Eggy is not getting as much attention as she did in the first 2 episodes. I say that because Eggy pretty much has the same type of relevance in the episode like in TPOT 3, minus the part where she agrees to work better, so she doesn't actually have anything that important in this episode, besides a couple of things. First, we learn that Eggy likes touchstone aesthetic, which isn't something that amazing to find out, since I didn't even know what that was before looking it up. But hey, it's still pretty cool to learn more about what Eggy likes. And then there's Eggy asking if they have a plan C when Grassy does eventually die, once again showing that she is quite smart, already thinking ahead.
Guys, if this Grassy thing fails, do we have a plan C?
I got nothing.
What about you, Robot Flower? You're the same species as the funny plant. Got any backup plans?
Well, according to Tree, I'm actually not the same species.
But yeah, besides that, her role did actually get even smaller than TPOT 3, which is kinda disappointing if I have to be honest. I can really tell the loss of Satomi as writer, since the first 2 episodes were much more detailed with their character interactions. But hey, at least she did do something, which is already better than nothing, so whatever. But in any case, before we go and pin down Eggy's overall personality, I have some thoughts on what could be next for Eggy and TPOT, as she has lots of things going on. So if any TPOT writer is watching this video, take notes, as I have some things that could be used for Eggy in the future of TPOT. As of right now, each TPOT episode has given us some storylines related to Eggy, so let's see them all. First of all, you should develop more the friendship between Basketball and Eggy. We've seen the two of them quite a lot together, in Teapot 1, where they act as the mind of the team, Teapot 2, where Basketball respects Eggy so much to give her the leadership role while she's missing, and then Teapot 3, where Basketball tries to be more polite to Eggy, allowing her to talk first. They clearly have much respect for one another, so a great thing the next episodes could do is improve this friendship, making them look like they get each other a lot, and showing more and more of these two bonding together, as they do seem like two people that could hang out outside of challenges. Second thing, have Eggy act smarter, as she's shown to be quite the thought-provoking person, so maybe make her be the one to have ideas for the team. Third, expand Eggy's friendship with Teardrop. Here's an interesting idea that could happen. What if in Teapot, switching team was allowed? Of course, with some moderation, but still, wouldn't it be great if Eggy, for one reason or another, got tired of her team, and decided to join Teardrop? They would make a great duo, and we would see more of the two with one another. And finally, her storyline with Winner. This connects to the Teardrop team idea, so hear me out. So we know Clock is getting on Winner's nerves, especially since last episode's disaster, so why not have Winner leave Team S, and have them join Teardrop and Eggy? Maybe Bottle could join Winner too, since the two of them got along with each other in Teapot 2, but I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, not only would this idea cause more drama with the Clock and Winner storyline, but it would also help with Winner's storyline on how they want to learn more about Eggy, and what better way to learn more about her by being on the same team with her. So to make a recap of the 4 points I gave, to make Eggy more interesting and more appealing to more people, you should first develop more Eggy and Basketball's friendship, so that way when Eggy does leave the team to join Teardrop, it gets a bit sad for Basketball to see Eggy gone. Second, give her more moments where she can use her brain to come up with ideas on how to win challenges. Third, at one point, have Eggy get tired of her team, maybe because of her constant bickering with Basketball, and have her leave the team, to join Teardrop's team, so that the two of them can act like a great duo in a couple of challenges. And fourth, have Winner leave Team S and join Teardrop's team at one point, because of Clock's constant annoying attitude, so that then Winner could learn more about Eggy, having the time to develop a new friendship with the Egg, and Teardrop as well. I feel like these three characters paired up together could make such interesting and great moments, acting like a trio of friends, who would become one of the strongest teams on Teapot. Sure, if this trio did lose a challenge, it would be game over for Eggy, but I'm willing to take the risk anyway, as I feel like Eggy is going to be the next character to be eliminated from the strongest team on Earth, so I wouldn't say that changes much. So yeah, Teapot so far has given us quite a lot of interesting Eggy ideas that could be developed later in the series, so I hope that this can become a reality in the future. Although I wouldn't put my hopes that high, as it's not even confirmed if it's even possible to switch teams, so we'll just have to wait and see. With that out of the way, we're officially done covering every single moment with Eggy in the entire series, going from the first episode of BFB, up until the latest episode of Teapot. So now that we're done with that, let's finally go and pin down what Eggy is like, and how her personality is like. After the course of a grand total of 12 episodes that had anything interesting about Eggy, we can divide Eggy's character in 5 main parts. So we have her introvert personality, her logical and smart side, her curiosity side, her realism elements, and finally, her being affectionate and caring to those close friends that she has. So let's take a look at each part. Her main trait can be considered to be her introverted personality. We already discussed how she can very much easily fit in this category for many reasons, so to be rather quick to the point, all you need to know is that Eggy is a character that would very much prefer to be alone, enjoying things like silence and peace quite a lot compared to the average person, and she'll have preferences over someone if they think like that as well. After that we have her logical thinking, which means that Eggy is a character that likes to think in details about anything, an example being what the logic behind Barf Bag's possible brain is. Other than that however, we also have smart moments as well, as we can see that Eggy is capable of adapting her plans after something goes wrong, just like in Teapot 1 and 2. Next we have her curiosity side, which is mostly related to the world of competition shows and BFDI, as we can see in multiple episodes that she's trying to gather as much information as possible about the first season of BFDI, to the point of even befriending Leafy at one point. Right after the curiosity side, we have her realism moments. This one wasn't explained that much before, so allow me to explain a bit more. I know that this is a cartoon series that isn't supposed to be taken too seriously, and that some characters are obviously gonna act very childish and all that. But even if it is like that, the show is sometimes able to show quite the dark themes, like Needle's death in BFDI 5, not to mention the more seriously toned scenes, like in BFB 22, with the Fairy and Leafy scene. Those scenes are pretty rare, and sprinkled around the series, and you can probably tell that I do like these type of scenes quite a lot, as they're able to be quite interesting in lots of ways. So with that said, isn't it a great idea that is the very own embodiment of those more serious/realistic moments? I say that because Eggy does act like one of the most rational and realistic characters not only in BFB, but in the object community overall, one excluded, as that show is filled with characters that are actual human beings. Shoutouts to one, gotta be one of my favorite object shows ever. Anyways, like I said, Eggy acts like one of the most realistic characters in the universe of BFDI, some examples being Teapot 1, where she clarifies to Cake that there's no possible way they would actually be friends, as they never had a positive interaction with each other. So yeah, Eggy acts like one of the most realistic characters in the whole series, so that's another key element to her character. And finally, she has shown to be very loyal and caring to those close friends she has. Well, as of right now, Teardrop is the only one that fits in this category, as Eggy willingly decided to leave her team just to go and recover Teardrop. I guess you could count other friends of hers, but none reached this level of trust yet, except for Teardrop, of course. Teardrop clearly means a lot to Eggy, as she showed lots of moments of wanting to gain her friendship, from BFB 4's final scene, to even more recently in Teapot 2's recovering scene. But even outside of Teardrop, Eggy can still show affection to her other friends, like with Leafy, where we can see their friendship growing and growing after Leafy's rejoin. So even if you don't reach Teardrop's friendship level with Eggy, you can still feel the caring side of Eggy, even if not as much. And that boils down to all 5 key elements of Eggy's personality. She's a smart introvert who likes to think a lot about things, who's able to show affection and care to those she can call friends, while also having realistic reactions to other characters, even if they can be seen as mean or inconsiderate, and also a huge curiosity over competition shows, mostly the first season of BFDI. There are probably smaller things about Eggy, but this is her centric personality, I would say. So with Eggy's personality figured out, it's time to answer one of the most requested questions I've had, ever since I started liking Eggy. So, why do I love Eggy so much? What's so good about Eggy that made me want to become one of, if not, Eggy's most known fan? Well, there are quite a lot of reasons why I love Eggy. In general, I just adore the character idea. I love that Eggy is supposed to be this somewhat rude, but also realistic character, because let me tell you something, in a series where there are such unrealistic characters like Yellowface or Cake, it's just refreshing to see a character from this universe that can actually be seen as a normal person, and not over-exaggerated, which makes her one of those characters with a very unique personality. Another reason why I love Eggy is that I can relate to her on the introvert part. Like we discussed, Eggy's a character that isn't shy to talk to other people, but she instead prefers to be left alone. Well, I'm like that too, I would say, as I'd much rather spend a Saturday night at home, watching a movie on Netflix, instead of going out to a party with lots of people. Eggy shares lots of ideals with me, so that's another reason. Oh yeah, I'm also a sucker for underdog characters. And yeah, this shouldn't be a surprise, as I actually really like most of the most underrated characters from BFB, such as Foldy Orbell. I do also like that she's pretty curious about the world of competition show, and more specifically, the first season of BFDI. It's a pretty good way to keep the first season as an essential part of the series, so there's that too. And finally, I gotta give huge credit to Catherine Sun, the voice actress of Eggy, who is very good at voicing both Eggy, and also Nelly. Fun fact, Catherine herself noticed the effort I put in my years of YouTube of defending Eggy, and she congratulated to me about it in an Undertale stream once.
Okay. Person on YouTube, I've seen your stuff. You're a very big fan of Eggy. And you started being a very big fan of her from before I came onto YouTube, so that's a lot of dedication. I tip my hat to you. Haha. Let's play a game.
I'm not gonna lie, the fact that she was this supportive about what I do, really made me feel quite special, like I earned the title of Eggy's #1 defender. It's a pretty nice feeling, so huge props to Catherine for that. Although I'll say that it's pretty odd how both of the characters that Catherine voices were both on a bottom 2 at least once. And, yeah, I think I said every reason I could think of on why I personally like Eggy, so now that's done. There's one last section of this video we should look at, and it's more related to the general viewer's opinion on Eggy, so let's check it out, shall we? So for the final part of this Eggy character analysis video, I wanted to see what the general public had to say about Eggy, and why certain people either don't like Eggy, or straight up despise her, since she has been quite hated on during the course of BFB. So with all that in mind, I decided to look at various sites from the web, to see all possible reasons that people had on why they didn't like Eggy, going from the BFB wiki, to the BFDI subreddit, to even asking myself that question on my own YouTube community posts, to see if my own fans had some ideas. And with all that research, I was able to find a grand total of, wait for it, 6 reasons on why they don't like Eggy. So let's take it each reason, to see if it's a fair reason or not. The first reason here that I found was that, when Eggy confronted Teardrop in BFB 1, she didn't care about making Teardrop feel better, but she just wanted someone to share her personal life stories with. This can be easily debunked, by thinking about this for a minute, so let's take a look at the context behind this scene. So we see Teardrop, who just went through quite some heavy abuse, by Lie and Clock, because she isn't able to talk. So then when Eggy tries to confront her, she says that they don't understand the appeal of silence, adding that even Eggy herself didn't talk much in her life. So you can clearly see the connection between Teardrop's problem and Eggy's story. They are both connected by the silence element. Eggy of course chose this story, because this one would clearly fit more into helping Teardrop, instead of, for example, a story about trusting your friends. Sure, a story about trusting your friends can be a nice story and lesson to learn, but this would not be a good time to tell about it, since Teardrop's supposed friends ended up abusing her. So yeah, Eggy clearly told Teardrop this specific story, because there's actually a connection to it with Teardrop's problem, meaning that she wanted to help Teardrop, thus debunking this reason. Next up we have, Eggy doesn't actually value a barf bag, she acts like Lollipop on that regard. Another debunked reason, since Eggy showed signs of caring about what barf bag wanted to say, since she told Lollipop to not be mean to barf bag about possibly having puke inside her brain. For me, that looks like someone who's trying to stand up for someone else, so that's another reason debunked. Next we have, Eggy shouldn't have blamed Clock for losing the challenge in BFB 6. I guess this is more debatable, since people can dislike Eggy for saying that? But at the same time, I personally think this is a stupid reason for disliking her, as she was just pointing out the truth, and, like we discussed on the BFB 6 episode, by doing this, Eggy does come off as a more realistic character, as anyone in real life would be pretty salty at someone for messing up the challenge. But yeah, I guess people can dislike her for this, but there's no reason for me to do so, as she literally just pointed out the truth. Right after that, we have, she unfriended Leafy after the events of BFB 15. I think I made it clear that this wasn't a valid reason to dislike Eggy. Whatever, to make it quick, at the very least, Leafy kept her secret of stealing Dream Island from Eggy, which would already cause Eggy to revalue her friendship with Leafy, as we established that Eggy is a very curious person, especially on the past of the seasons, so keeping hidden something this big would clearly make Eggy end her friendship with Leafy, and that's just the best possibility, cause at the worst case scenario, Leafy might have just straight up lied to Eggy about what happened to Dream Island, since I feel like Eggy would try to ask something about the island itself and where it would be now. So no matter how you look at it, Eggy has every right to end her friendship with Leafy right here, no debating on this one. The next one is pretty interesting, Eggy only exists to cause problems to those around her, just like in BFB 13 and Teapot 2. This is another reason that is actually pretty fair, and probably the best one so far. It's actually fair to not like Eggy because of her somewhat rude personality and her habit of causing havoc with other characters, like with cake or basketball. However, I personally think that this is a great thing for Eggy. Think about it, being able to cause problems inside teams can only mean one thing: drama. There will be pretty entertaining things coming out from this team if Eggy's on it. As much as I love the characters from Team 8's, I doubt that they would easily get into any sort of drama, as everyone inside this team is overall a pretty chill character, therefore eliminating any sorts of potential conflicts. You gotta have mean characters in your teams, so that the teams aren't just frenzy with each other. There needs to be drama inside teams to make a team interesting, that's what I like to believe in. So again, if you don't like Eggy's personality, it's 100% fine to not like her, as her rudeness can be seen as a bad trait. But personally, I do like that side of hers, as that would contribute to the team that Eggy's in. And finally, the last reason, which is the one I've seen the most during my research. She's a bland character. Honestly, that's another great point. If TPOT didn't exist, I can absolutely see why people would not like Eggy and BFB, as she barely had any scenes in those episodes, so that she would slide more as one of the secondary characters. So this statement is pretty accurate for BFB. Too bad that TPOT exists. Yeah, with TPOT releasing, it's clear that the writers have given Eggy a more honest chance at being more liked, as she was much more present in all of the challenges so far. One might even go and say that Eggy's one of the main pillars of the strongest team on Earth. So you can see why this argument doesn't last anymore. So yeah, I would say this is debunked as well. And that's all the reasons I could find on why people hate Eggy. There might be more out there, so if you have any other reasons on why you don't like Eggy, let me know in the comments, and I'll be glad to look at it and give my take on it. But for now, this is all I could find. Now, with all of this said, with this hour and extra time of content, explaining literally everything about Eggy, what's left to say? Well, I do have a couple of final words to end the video off, so let's get to the conclusion. When I first started to get interested in Eggy's character, something started inside of me. It was a pretty strong feeling. I was able to relate to this character in quite a lot of ways, from the way she talks with others, to how she thinks, and how she acts. So when I first heard about people not liking this character, I was pretty shocked, and saw no one who tried to stand up for her, as they were all busy gushing about other characters, like Loser or Taco. So, when no one else cared about Eggy, I decided to take a stand, and start defending Eggy with all my might, in the hopes that I would get more people to see Eggy's true personality. She wasn't just a mean character, she's a character that has so many layers inside of her. I would even go and say that she is much deeper as a character as characters like Leafy or Bubble. But sadly, it's easy to not care much about her, as she's overshadowed by the rest of the cast. But, as you could see in this video, she has so much to talk about, so much to even fill an entire hour worth of content about her. Eggy in general, is a character that I will continue to fight for, as I was able to see her true potential, even when people didn't see it, all the way back in BFB 7. She's a character that, personally speaking, holds a real special place in my heart, not only because of the fact that she's such a delight of a character, but it's also because she's a huge part of the reason of what I am now here on YouTube. Most of the times, when I go to certain chats about BFB, I see people referring me as that one Eggy lover or Eggy's defender, and sometimes, I do wonder if this is really what I want to be known as in this community. But then, I look at what liking Eggy as much as I did brought me, with great friends I was able to meet during these years, my very own community that I created, and even receiving support from the same person that voices the same character I defend so much. And then, I remember that yes, being known as Eggy's most well-known fan, is something that I'm so glad to have. That's such a great title to have, and I'm very glad to have it, so that I can maybe make more and more people understand the hidden layers of this obscure character, to the point where maybe one day, a distant one even, she might be recognized by most of the community, and maybe become an overall liked character, or who knows, maybe even a fan favorite. The possibilities are endless, but I know for one that, I'll continue to stand my ground as Eggy's strongest defender, as I will do my very best to convince more and more people that Eggy is quite a great character. Sure, we had a rough start, but it looks like our future is bright, as Eggy is now receiving more attention in the newest TPOT episodes, so our future can only get brighter from here out. It feels like Eggy might stay for some more time, so that she can become more loved by more and more people, but only the future will tell. For now, I want to get us to the final minutes of this huge character analysis video. This was probably my biggest project in all of my history as a YouTuber, but I'm so glad I went for it, because I had to relook at all of Eggy's moments, and remind to myself why I love this character so much. I wanna say a personal thanks to all the people that helped in the animation parts of the video. I hope that the more animated parts of this video were more appealing to look at. I'm very grateful for everyone who offered themselves to help with, quite possibly, the greatest and biggest project of my YouTube career. As you could have probably guessed, once this video is fully finished, it's gonna stay as my pinned video on the channel, so that everyone will be able to understand why I love Eggy as much as I do. With all of that said, it's been a great pleasure to guide you through the various moments of one of the most underrated characters of BFDI. I hope you'll be able to stick around. Sadly, I don't think my content gets any better than this, but I'll greatly appreciate if you were to subscribe to the channel. It would be pretty cool if you did. And even if you don't like BFDI, I do other content, like I sometimes talk about Danganronpa, a great visual novel where there's lots of mysteries and murders. Or maybe you'll enjoy my Friday Night Funkin' covers, where I'll make some silly characters sing some songs I really like. Or maybe you'll like to hear what I usually do in my weeks, like how I recently watched all movies from DreamWorks, ranking them all from worst to best, or how I recently finished Breaking Bad and how it's actually one of the greatest series of all time. You could even join the Faker Discord server, where you can go and witness with your own eyes the beauty of my camp. And even if all of that doesn't sound appealing, I have, well, other things planned in the future. So I'm sure you'll be interested in whatever I'll work on. I may be Eggy's most supportive fan, but I'm obviously not just that, and if you'd like to know more about me and what I do, I would suggest subscribing. And with all of that said, it's time to say goodbye. I need to get this script done as soon as possible, hoping that I can release this video before TPOT 5 releases, cause otherwise I would have to edit a new section of the video in. But yeah, thank you for giving me the possibility to explain to you why Eggy is one of the most unique characters in BFDI. My name's a person on YouTube, also known as APOY, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.